I often get depressed in Canberra's colder, darker months, so for the winter of 2019 I decided to ride my bicycle to the tropics. For this trip, I'd loosely planned a 7,000 kilometre, 3-month journey, an inland route to Cairns, and then a coastal route back to Canberra, all of which would be subject to change and improvisation as required.
Well, I was silly enough not to buy some gloves, so I'm sitting in the tent here where it is shielded from the wind, waiting for it to warm up a little bit so that I don't get really cold hands. If we look at the route here, I've been putting markers on potential towns that I want to go through. Now, I was originally going to come through Mount Garnet here. So from Hughenden to Mount Garnet is at least 300 kilometres of dirt road with nothing on it. It's the only way of getting to Cairns that doesn't involve this highway. So you'd think, okay, well, just take the Bruce Highway. The problem with that is it's the most dangerous road in the state for cyclists. It has the most crashes and it has the most deaths. It's a very, very long highway, which means that people get fatigued. On top of that, it's Queensland and people hate cyclists. That's basically my predicament, is that I don't think it's possible to get to Cairns safely. Maybe the carriages were too much for my bike. This front tyre's fine, even if it's still got a few little ones in it. It's on. But the rear tyre has gone down enough that the rim is now hitting on the ground when I ride. Well, I've pumped it up and it seems to actually be doing a reasonable job of holding pressure. We'll see how far it takes me before it starts hitting the rim again. I've got about 70 k's to go today, I think. I know it's 84 kilometres or something to Walgett from here.
The landscape was extremely flat and dry as I rode towards Wingadee station. I'd chosen this route because I wanted to avoid the Castlereagh Highway, but also because I wanted to get a photo at a locality with an interesting name, come by chance. After a few cattle grids, I found myself riding straight through next to some big old shearing sheds and a homestead. I wasn't sure if I was trespassing, but there were no signs telling me that the road was private, so I just continued straight through.
Oh, here's a dog. Hello, dog. In the middle of nowhere. There's absolutely nothing for at least 10 kilometres. Someone has tied a dog up here on the fence line. I don't know if he's supposed to be the guard dog or whatever, but he seems quite young and very, very happy to see a human. I don't know if I'll pat him. I think he's a guard dog. We'll see. Hey, mate.
As far as I could tell, the dog was basically being used as a living cattle grid. I'm not sure what the details of the situation were, but it did seem pretty unusual. Anyway, about 20 k's later I hit a T-intersection where the road turned to the finest brown bull dust, which stopped me in my tracks. My 35mm tyres just sank straight into the road. To make matters worse, I couldn't find a sign to come by chance. A couple of cars sped past, kicking up masses of dust which slowly drifted to the north. It was 50-something k's into town from here, so I did what I could. I started walking and hoped that the road surface would improve. As luck would have it, a Land Rover eventually stopped and the sunburned and bristly man seated within introduced himself as Steve and offered me a lift. I gladly accepted, chucked my bike on the tray, and off we went. Steve turned out to be a local sheep farmer with a penchant for talking about women in sexually objectifying ways. I wondered whether he was lonely, tending to his flock all by himself on these drought-stricken plains. Either way, I was just glad to not have to walk.
Well, I'm here in Walgett, and I got here much earlier than expected because I was given a lift by a sheep farmer named Steve, which is much appreciated. He was nice enough though, gave me a bit of information about the town, including the fact that the IGA, the supermarket here, has burned down, which is kind of helpful to know. So he took me to a truck stop so I could buy a little bit of food there, even though it was just chips and chocolate, that kind of rubbish. I'm going to head on from here to Colorinda, Brae, which does have a shop. This is the Barman River we're crossing here. I thought that was a big dam that I slept at last night. Check this one out. That's the wall of it there. And that's the end of it over there. The thing must be... well, it's the size of a paddock. It's the size of a large paddock. Maybe it's even 100 hectare. Anyway, this is the Guida Highway. I've just turned off up there from the Castlereagh Highway. That way you go to Lightning Ridge. This way you come to Moree via Colorinda, Brae. And I'm not going to Moree, I don't think. I think I'm going to go north from Colorinda, Brae to Mungindi, right on the border. Sun's just setting now. Tonight I'm camped on the roadside because I couldn't find anywhere better. It's safe to camp by the roadside. I'm pretty sure it's legal. It's definitely public land. And whilst you might get a couple of toots or people looking at you, this isn't too busy a road to start with. But also, who cares, you know? Well, it's early morning here by the roadside near Walgett, and I've cracked open a cold one. Not your normal cold one, but cold one nevertheless. And I'm hoping not to run out of food by the time I get to Colorinda, Brae. Yeah, I've got meals sorted for today at least. So yeah, and enough water, hopefully, to get there as well. Just at about 6 in the morning, just over here, a car pulled up and its occupants got out and they were just screaming at each other. I don't know if the car was broken down or something. I think that's what happened. The bloke in the relationship, he got out and was swearing his head off at the vehicle, and then was rummaging around in a toolbox, and she was screaming at him the whole time. I just was surprised they didn't get into a fisticuffs. Anyway, I saw similar behaviour at the park in Walgett yesterday, actually. So when school finished at 3 p.m, I don't know why school finishes at 3 there, but it does. All of the Aboriginal girls finished up. Girls and boys actually finished up, and they were all walking home. And then there was this mum with her 2 kids walking them home, screaming at them the whole time. I feel terrible for these kids, but apparently that's normal in Walgett. So I don't know. I'm sure there are rougher towns around, but as far as the ones that I've been through are concerned, I think Walgett is taking the cake at this point. Well, Unsurprisingly, my tyre has gone flat again overnight. But given how well it held air throughout the day yesterday, I think I might just pump it up, go to Colorinda, Brae, and maybe change the tube there. We'll see.
It was 60 k's to Colorinda from my campsite. Heading into the sun, I passed massive cotton farms and cattle stations. The dirt turned from white to red as the terrain became progressively more hilly, and there were absolutely no cars on the road, which made for some pleasant cycling.
Well, I'm 10 k's out of Colorinda. Bike's here, and the scenery has changed quite a bit. Got red dirt and sort of woodland with not much grass, probably because it's been eaten. Got some big bulldozers and stuff over there too. Well, I'm here in Colorinda. I think that's how you pronounce it. If Walgett is going to win some awards for being one of the worst towns that I've been to, then Colorinda, which is just next door, wins the Awesome Town with Friendly People award. The shop owners were so lovely, very chatty, and I've just been sitting here eating my lunch, and along comes a council worker, Aboriginal bloke, and he goes, "Oh, my mate," he says, and proceeds to tell me all the details about the road to Mungindi. 24 kilometres of asphalt, followed by 40 kilometres of black dirt and sand, followed by more asphalt, and told me about the water, checked in on me. Very friendly guy. And yeah, lots of my mate. Hope you're going okay, my mate. You got enough water, my mate? He's very funny. The trucks churn up the road, so he told me there's going to be bull dust, which is that really fine stuff that I can't ride through. So I may have to do a bit of pushing of the bike, and it is 40 kilometres, but he said going around Moree way is bloody long way, he said. So, to use his own words. Yeah, everyone here has been really lovely, especially the Aboriginal people. The irony is that people like Steve, who picked me up yesterday, think that the Aboriginal people around here aren't much good. Looks as though they're actually paving the road, paving it all the way to Mungindi. So I'll get to ride on the dirt, but future travellers won't. Here's what I've been riding on for the last 10 kilometres, I think, around about that. It's actually very fine, what they call bull dust over here. It just falls apart. But on the road itself, they've sprayed a bit of water on it, and it forms this hard compacted layer. And if you ride on this, it's a bit rough. If you just come over a little bit to where it meets the bull dust, this is actually just as smooth as asphalt, and I've been able to hit 38 k's an hour for a bit of time earlier thanks to this wind. So I've only got 60 k's to go to Mungindi. Started off with 90 just an hour ago, so I'm making very good progress. I might even get there tonight, which would be awesome, because then I'll have done 150 k's in one day. The road has been extremely bad for the last 5 k's, as I think this indicates, although it was much worse than this. This is just the bull dust. the corrugation's back there. You couldn't do more than 5k an hour on. Yeah, just heading over to Mungindi there. So my map says 45 kilometres, 44.6 kilometres. This should be fun because we're heading with the wind now to the west, or west-northwest. These roads are very, very badly corrugated, so I'm not sleeping in Queensland tonight by the look of it. But well, I was told there was 40 k's of dirt road, and I know I've done 25 at least, probably 30. So hopefully it's not too far now before the asphalt. Well, I just got invited to dinner by that bloke. He has a property back there, but he also has a place in town in Mungindi, and he said meet me at gave me his address, said meet me there at 7. So now I've got a reason to continue into town, and he said he'll give me a place to sleep too. So the kindness of strangers, hey? He also seemed like a really well-educated guy, and he pointed out that these trees right here are actually natives which are dying off, and these over here is even a eucalypt which is dying off. And he said he's never seen a drought this bad ever. He said it won't be the same in his lifetime as it has been. Well, it's 5 o'clock and the sun is just about to set. And I believe today is the solstice. It's the 21st of June, and if my memory is correct, that means it's the solstice, which means we're heading further north quite quickly, because the sun was setting at 5 o'clock back down at Leeton and so on. So even though we're further into, well, we're the solstice, we're the shortest day of the year, despite that, the sun is setting later than further south, so pretty cool. Anyway, I'm off to see John now. Has invited me to dinner. I think it's about 10 k's to Mungindi, and looking forward to it. Sun's just going down and I've finally reached Queensland. Well, here I am in the small town of Mungindi. It's about 6 o'clock and I'm off to see John in just under an hour, unless he texts me and says come early. Well, I didn't end up going to John's because I arrived in Mungindi and went down the main street. I was there at about 6 o'clock. I texted John and I said I've arrived. And he came down and met me and he said, unfortunately, my wife is sick and doesn't want visitors. And I felt terrible for him because he clearly really wanted to have me round, but he obviously hadn't consulted with his wife first, so that's what happened. So he had to say, I'm very sorry, and he recommended this caravan park here, which I'm staying at. And so I set my tent up here. So it was a real shame because I would have preferred to have camped near where I met John. There was some beautiful camping spots there, but you don't always get what you want. I'm not actually in New South Wales. That's New South Wales over the river there. But here is Queensland. John thought there might be toilets available or showers available, and it looks like there is a hot water system on top of these two, but the problem is that The doors are locked. After all that dirt riding, my drivetrain is filthy again. So I'm going to clean that up. Check out the gunk in there. That is just good. Well, I've pulled the wheel apart, pulled the tyre apart, and I'm pretty sure I've found both the hole and the little cathead spike that was the culprit as well, and taken that out of the tyre. So now I'm just going to put it all back together, finish cleaning the bike, and head on into town to get some food.
After processing some photographs on my laptop, I rode into town to visit the supermarket. As I was about to leave, I got chatting with the Poms who ran it. They recommended I visit the Nindigully pub, or as they called it, the Nindigully pub, for a free shower and a hot meal. It was only 70 k's down the road, but I'd sat around in Mungindi all morning, so I decided to turn the pub into the day's destination.
Well, I've got my campsite set up. I've decided not to go all the way to the pub. That's about 5 or 10 k's away for the morning, and I'll have my shower in the morning that way. So this scrub, the highway's over there, but this scrub just goes on for tens and tens of kilometres. It's just all this low shrubby stuff. All the big trees seem to have died. You'll probably notice of the trees that are alive, none of them are as big as the dead ones. Yeah, it's quite... Obviously, the drought has really affected a lot of these areas. So, anyway, I've got reception here, so I'm gonna sit around and ring my friend and enjoy the sunset.